That's the least deserved applause I've ever received. Anyway, thank you. Dear students, parents, families, friends, trustees, colleagues, anyone else who doesn't feel included in that list, welcome. I'm Steve Sagarin. I'm the executive director and a teacher at Berkshire Waldorf High School. Wow. This evening continues one of the school's oldest traditions, hearing from members of the senior class regarding their projects and internships. Some of you may remember that we have held this evening in Dewey Hall, at the Sheffield VFW, in the Parish Hall at the Congregational Church in Great Barrington, and more recently at Ventford Hall in Lennox. But the Mahaiwe is the best venue we have found. And I want to thank the Mahaiwe Performing Arts Center for making it possible for us to be here, and the staff for helping us put this evening together, especially Lucas Pavelski, Michael Buth, Thomas Randall, and Anders Johansson. And I also want to thank all of the families and friends who are here tonight for supporting the great class of 2023 through all the days that bring them to this evening and very, very close to the end of high school. And I want to thank you for your support in another way, too, and by that I mean your donations. Believe it or not, since the pandemic, giving to our school has increased by about 50%. And every dollar you donate makes it possible for us to give all of our students the best education possible. And your donations also move us closer to a permanent home. I'm happy to report that we have raised almost $3.5 million toward our new building. If you want to increase that amount, there's a giving page on our website. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So our first senior night in the spring of 2006 included a scene from Angels in America, a cello performance, and a report on volunteer work in a hospital. Since then, with the exception of 2020, sidelined by the pandemic, every senior class in our school has stood before the community, as these students will do in a moment. Over the years, seniors have done such things as assist with a C-section for a cow, report on a fundraiser for then Senator Barack Obama, join a cancer research team, or build a tiny home. Seniors spend approximately a month, and sometimes a lot more than that, finding something to do that takes them out of our school and into the world. Through the years of high school, it brings us joy to see how each of these students grows to become themselves. Every year on a night like this, we honor and acknowledge the mature, remarkable individual young persons who graduate from our school. Students will present this evening in reverse alphabetical order, so we will begin with Chloe Whyte.
Good evening, everyone. Please forgive my voice. The atmosphere, the current fire smoke has made it a bit, my lungs are suffering, let's just say. So I'm Chloe. I built a cob oven for my senior project. You may be wondering what cob means. You might be picturing an oven formed of corn on the cob, but that's not my kind of oven. Cob is a building technique using clay, sand, and straw that has been used all over the world for thousands of years to build ovens, benches, walls, garden beds, and houses. Not only is cob incredibly sturdy, it can last for centuries if built and maintained properly. The clay in cob helps hold everything together. The sand prevents cracking and adds to the solidity, and the straw provides tensile strength for the whole thing. My oven is wood-fired and uses thermal mass and insulation. It uses different layers, so there's a layer of thermal mass, which is just clay and sand, and the insulation layer has the straw in it. The design will allow me to plan my bake time so I can put pizza in at the hottest temp, and then as the oven slowly cools, I can bake bread, cakes, cookies, and dehydrate fruit and herbs as it gets to the lower temperatures. This project took over 80 hours of research, gathering materials, and the actual manual construction. And believe it or not, I'm not actually done yet. Have a little bit more to do, but I'm very excited to fire it up and make some pizza. The general, yeah. The general, and I think my family is pretty excited for that too. Next slide. The general, there's me, the mud monster. The general construction started with digging a drain and foundation with pea gravel. And I learned that our yard is pretty much all ledge, so that was a fun time. Next, I dry stacked some stones, and that was kind of a difficult feat, but I learned about stacking stones and filling it with pea gravel, and on top of that, I built, you can see that like hairy looking mud thing. The next layer, that's the insulation ring, so that's cob, which cob is mixed. I mixed it on a tarp with my hands and feet. I kind of did like a dance boogie, cob boogie. You mix it all up and then you pack it down and it gets really solid. And that gets filled in with glass bottles and hamster bedding and mud, so that creates air pockets of insulation. Then on top of that, I put sand, and then you can see I laid fire bricks for the oven floor. On top of that, there goes a sand form, which is damp sand packed down, covered in wet newspaper. And then on top of that is the first layer of cob, which is the thermal mass layer. Then on top of that goes the insulation layer, and eventually plaster. So next slide. So it eventually will look something like that when it's finished, and it'll be much prettier than the previous photo. So this project has really taught me a lot about cob in general, and also given me the confidence that pretty much anyone can build themselves their own oven or house, I think potentially, if they put in the time and the effort, which is a pretty inspiring thought that we can do that. It's great for the environment, and it's really fulfilling to know that you've built something yourself that's going to be useful and bring community together and make really great food. So I want to thank my wonderful family for all their support, both financial and emotional, and for helping haul dirt from the stream in our woods, because dirt is really heavy, so that was great to have some help with that. And I want to thank my project guide, Sarah Basson, she was really encouraging and enthusiastic, and she gave me a lot of helpful tips and advice. And lastly, and certainly not leastly, I want to thank Mother Earth for all the great materials for oven building. And thank you, all of you.
Hello and good evening. My name is Sedona MaCloud. Kingsport, Nova Scotia isn't known for much. It's a tiny farm town on the coast of the Bay of Fundy. But though the 4 weeks I spent working as a farmhand at Oakview Farm did not involve bustling city streets or vibrant worldly culture, it cultivated an intimate relationship with nature, and it taught me a great deal about myself. I organized this stay through the Worldwide Organization of Organic Farming, also known as WWOOFing, and I was hosted by the farmer Kevin Graham and his wife Jennifer in their home. While there were no other woofers for the first 2 weeks of my stay, on Fridays, 2 to 4 people from the local community would help in the greenhouses, where we would harvest spinach, kale, cabbage, and lettuce that we packaged for nearby farm stands and the Halifax Farmers Market. So you can see the greenhouse here and 2 of the helpers, Shane and Lindsay. Next slide. This is the Halifax Farmers Market, and this is my first bag of kale. Next slide. My daily chore on the farm was collecting, washing, and packaging the eggs from the chicken coops. This was about a 2 to 3 hour task each day. The farm had roughly 350 chickens, and I collected and washed about 300 eggs daily. In the egg room, there was a large pail like the one you can see on the left-hand side of the screen here, with coils wound up in the bottom. This contraption did most of the egg washing. I would fill it up with hot water and egg soap and put about a basket of 100 eggs or so inside. When I turned it on, the coil sent vibrations into the water and knocked off a good amount of anything stuck to the eggshells. After a few minutes, I would rinse and dry the eggs before packaging them up in cartons or flats. Dr. Sagrin would like to think that this is real time. It's a time lapse. I'm about to break most of your hearts. These are the meat chickens. About 2 weeks into my stay, we received roughly about 250 chickens, or chicks, and we set up their coop in the attic of the larger barn. And as they got older and grew, we used bales of hay, sorry. I don't know what that is, but that'd be cool. Bales of hay, and we would expand the chicken coop as the chickens got bigger, kind of like a maze almost, to block them in. It was cool. And unlike a lot of farms, we actually raised the chickens until they were 8 to 10 weeks old. A lot of like the larger farms that mass-produce chickens are 4 to 5 weeks, so that was interesting. Okay. So the farm raised cattle, though without any chores around them, I didn't have a great opportunity to befriend these lovely cows. Still, I was lucky enough to be on the farm during calving season, and 2 calves were born during my stay. The first calf, whom I nicknamed Betty after Betty Boop because of her ridiculously long eyelashes, which you can't really see, but they're there, was born in the early morning on April 10th. At the time, there was a deadly disease moving through the herd that had killed 2 calves previously. And the only way to protect her from this was to feed her colostrum from a local dairy herd that had the antibodies to the virus. But we had to do this within 12 hours of her being born. So that afternoon, we managed to separate the mother from the calf, put a feeding tube down the calf's throat, and fed it a 2-liter bottle of the colostrum to ensure the calf's immunity. Next slide. Okay. In addition, I planted many seeds in starter trays in preparation for warmer weather when they would be planted outside in the fields. I also weeded, cleared, tilled, fertilized, and prepped beds within the greenhouses, and then planted many kinds of starter lettuce. In all honesty, I am unable to fully capture my month's experience in a few short minutes. I met many friends and family of my hosts who were so overwhelmingly warm and welcoming. I was taken to the farmers market in Wolfville and on personal tours of the province by Jennifer's father. I went to weekly family dinners at Jennifer's parents' house where we spent hours conversing about any topic under the moon. Next slide. I went to the theater, the beach, the cliffs, the Bay of Fundy, horse stables, and many other places. I learned that the time spent both on and off the farm really made my experience what it was. This was Kingsport Beach when the tide was out. This area has some of the largest tides in the world, so it was really cool to see. I did get stuck in the mud taking this photo because I went too far out, but I did get back. I would strongly recommend this experience to anyone who enjoys being busy and who seeks mental fulfillment. In a farm town, time is important, but time is valued in different ways. There is a time to be in the barn later than usual, and there is a time to take a 3-hour lunch. There's a time to go for a drive or a walk, and there's a time to sweat in the greenhouse caked in dirt. There's a time to slow down and a time to push further than usual. This taught me to find a balance between working hard, sometimes causing discomfort, and slowing down when that's what you need. This is Kevin, my host, by the way. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to lower this, raise this a little bit, one sec. I'm Gabriel Lassor, and tonight I want to share the amazing experience I had during my senior internship project. With the help of my mentor, Dr. Broussard, I dove headfirst into the exciting world of video editing, following my growing passion for the creating and editing videos. I've always been fascinated by the art of visual storytelling, and I want to take my skills to the next level. That's why I decided to learn DaVinci Resolve, an editing software that's taking the industry by storm. To get a deeper understanding of the software and gain some hands-on experience, Dr. Broussard and I took a trip to WSBS in Lee, Massachusetts. WSBS is the local news and television broadcasting center. The staff at WSBS was incredibly supportive. They helped me navigate the ins and outs of DaVinci Resolve and even hooked me up with some top-of-the-line equipment. Having access to all the high-tech gear was awesome. After the trip, it was time to put my skills to the test. I spent the rest of my internship working my tail off, creating and editing videos, not only for myself, but also for my brother and his friend's YouTube channel. We kicked off the channel back in February, and things started picking up steam real fast. With the help of my talented collaborators, Julian and August, our channel began gaining traction. It was unbelievable. In just the month of April, we racked up a whopping 12,000 views, 156 watch hours, and almost 100 new subscribers. The love and support we received from our viewers blew us away. I want to take a moment and express my heartfelt gratitude to Dr. Broussard. She's been an incredible mentor, always there helping me with planning and scheduling and offering her unwavering support. I couldn't have done it without her. And I can't forget to give a shout out to Jay Blake, who has been a rock-solid supporter of our channel. In closing, this senior internship project has been a great learning experience. I'm so grateful for the opportunities I've had, the lessons I've learned, and the connections I've made along the way. Thank you all for being here and joining me on this incredible adventure. Let's keep pushing boundaries, chasing our passions, and creating something truly remarkable. And Dr. Sagrin is going to show a video from our YouTube channel in a second. But this is, yeah, here we go, yeah. Enjoy. What's up, guys? Gamers Oasis here. Today, we finally have the Clicks keyboard, the Demon Mode bundle. I think this is the mouse pad. I'm not sure exactly what this is. And then this is the keyboard. So we're going to open the mouse pad first so I can set up on my desk. Woo! It's clean. I personally love Matrix products. Take a look at it. We got the Clicks signature right here, which is awesome. And then we got the Matrix symbol right there, which is also awesome. Really nice looking mouse pad. And now we're gonna open the special package. So I'm not sure exactly what this is. Oh, these are the key switches. So I might try these ones out, see how they feel. For now, we're gonna go to the keyboard. All right, so this is the big one, guys. We got the keyboard. The box is a very nice Matrix Keyboards Pro collection, which is awesome. All right, take out the keyboard. So we got the cord. It's a cool black and purple cord. And then we got the Matrix sticker along with the keycap puller and the switch puller. Time for the keyboard, guys. I'm very excited about this. There she is. It's got F1, F2, F3, and it's got the little arrows, keys, and stuff right here. So we're gonna plug it in, and we're gonna see what it looks like. 1, 2, 3. Wow. That's very sick. The full video of it, gameplay and stuff for this will be coming soon, but I hope you guys enjoyed the unboxing. Peace. If you guys want to check out the YouTube channel, we do keyboard reviews, mouse reviews. We do some content on there. It's Gamers Oasis on YouTube, so feel free to come out and check us out. Thank you, guys.
just a little bit. So during my internship back in April, I worked with my baseball trainer of 7 years, Jim Pernick. He owns and operates All In Sports, which is in Cheektowaga, New York. It's outside of Buffalo. I've been working with him for a long time. He taught me everything I know about baseball. It's one of my favorite things to do, and I'm so grateful for everything he was able to teach me and for this opportunity that I had. It was incredible. So while I was working with him, I had a number of camps that I worked on where he would send out flyers to the surrounding area and players around, and players of all ages would come and play. And I also helped him out with some individual lessons with some other players he worked with. When a camp was not going on, and I was helping with the individual training sessions, I would warm up the kids by playing catch with them, or I would hit ground balls so they could, field it and play defense. If they were doing some pitching, then I would catch for them, or if they were hitting, then I'd throw a soft toss to them. And it was really cool to be able to do this with the kids, because I'd been doing this for so long as the trainee, and to be on the other side of that was just amazing. It was an incredible experience. And when camp was going on, they had pretty much the same activities. There would be hitting and pitching and fielding, and I would either hit grounders or throw soft toss or do some catching. But what was most amazing about that was being able to actually coach the kids. I had a lot of one-on-one time with some of the players, and it was so cool to be able to kind of impart my wisdom that I learned from him and kind of take what I've learned and be able to help them get better. And that was really amazing. These camps were usually about 30 to 40 kids. They'd be ages about 10 to 16. And I've always enjoyed working with kids. Every summer I do a volunteer program where I'm working with kids, and I've just always been really good at that. I've been able to connect with them, and I love doing that. And so being able to play baseball with that was just amazing. It was really cool. It was a great way to spend my time. And I thought this experience taught me a lot about, how much patience you need to be able to work with people, because it's not all easy. It's not all playing baseball and doing that kind of stuff. You also have to be able to work with the kids, which is something that I had to learn, and it was really rewarding. You need patience and, know when to encourage and when to give advice. And, it's important to become a role model for the kids. If you do the next slide. And know how to do that. So this is one of the cages, and how it would be set up is they had a number of catchers. So if they had catchers, then some people would pitch to them and they would catch. But if they didn't have a certain position, then I could go and fill in for that as kind of like a helper in that sense. And then you can see in the background is the hitting cages there. And, I know the ins and outs of this place and everything. So I've, been going here for so long, and it was just so cool to be able to be on that side of it. I remember the first day of one of the camps I was working on. One of the younger kids, he was eating lunch, and he brought in one of those like protein shakes in a bottle, and I was like, oh yeah, like I love it. You gotta have the protein, like nice job there. And he got a real kick out of that. And so for the entire camp, he brought me one every morning, and that just really stuck with me, and that kind of stuff is just is really cool to see. Having this internship to be able to work with Jim on a whole new level that I've been working with him was just awesome. And I gained a new appreciation for the game of baseball that I'd never had before. And I think it was so cool to be able to do that. And, I learned that someday I could do this as a career. And I learned that this is something that I could definitely see myself doing. And I love baseball, and I love, working with people, and I could definitely do this. And, that was really cool to learn, because I've been struggling with finding my passion, and this is definitely really cool. So this is me with some of the kids. Obviously, a lot of people had left at this point. And so this is just a few of them. And it was at the end, so on this field, this is the bigger diamond. And at the end of the day, every day of the camp, for an hour, we would play a scrimmage. And so I would be with the older kids, and Jim would be with the younger kids. And So I would take the kids, and it was so cool to be able to, they knew what they wanted to do, and I was just kind of letting them play the way that they wanted to play and just kind of letting them do their thing, and I would pitch to them, and I would kind of, enforce the rules a little bit when it got a little heated. But it was so cool to be able to do that, and I'm just so grateful to Jim for, I got a late start on baseball playing at a high level, and he taught me everything I knew, and as soon as I got in, it was like I never skipped a beat, and I'm just so grateful for everything that he's done, and I can't thank him enough. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ellie. I'm just going to apologize in advance for the quality of photos you're about to see. It will not be clear, but so for my internship, I worked with Bruce Wynn, who is a environmental science teacher at BCC. I helped with a lot of general tasks, helped out with his classes for a bit, but my main project was researching local vernal pools. This is a vernal pool that you can't really see, but there are 5 vernal pools right besides BCC. 4 of them are doing great, they're thriving, but one, next slide, this one is pretty much dying. There's way too much plant growth, it's full of sediment, pretty much it just needs to be dredged and restarted. However, vernal pools are very important for amphibians since that's their natural breeding ground. So they're protected under the Massachusetts Wetlands Act. So before we could dredge it, we need to get approval from the state, and to do that, we need to collect a lot of data about what was wrong with it and why was dredging it going to fix it, and what other options could there be. So my job was to run tests on the water in all of the pools and a nearby pond to determine what was wrong with it. There's a possibility that fertilizer was coming from a nearby field. However, tests showed that probably wasn't the issue. But I also got to do a lot of my favorite tests for this, which is E. coli. Perfect timing. By the way, E. coli as a general is perfectly harmless. There's a few strands that are dangerous to people, but as general, it's fine. Be nicer to E. coli. But so I like to think of the E. coli like little sea monkeys, mainly because you can't see them, but they're there and they're cute. So BCC has a partnership with local environmental groups where the groups bring them water samples and they test for E. coli. E. coli is an indicator of pollution. So you can see on the left, this is the E. coli sample after incubating for 24 hours. And then on the right there, that is the same sample under a black light, or UV light. The 3 little bubbles that are glowing, those have active E. coli in them. They're glowing because before incubating the E. coli, you add this compound that the E. coli eat. But before they eat it, they need to break it down into smaller bits, and the material that they don't consume glows under UV light. Yes, on to my, yeah, that probably, sorry for the quality on that again, but this was a different teacher there, but another environmental group was coming by to learn how to microchip snakes. So they were working on this construction site, and they were there to remove snakes and track them and everything. So they came in for a demonstration, and I got to sit in on it. you can't really see it well, but that is a hypodermic needle, so it's really just a large hollow needle with a little microchip inside. So you insert it right under the snake's skin. You don't want to go into muscle or anything because that will actually hurt the snake. But you put it right under the skin, and then it can be read by a microchip tracker. And conservationists use this to track migration and breeding and such. One of them talked about they were working on a construction site in Amherst, and they found this rattlesnake. So they microchipped it, put it on a nearby mountain, and then a couple months later, or no, it was about a year actually, he was working in North Adams, and the same snake was there. Yeah. He was very impressed by its speed. But I also got to handle the snakes, which was really fun because I love snakes. Yeah, it was a really fun internship. I got to learn a lot about environmental science, and I had a lot of freedom to work by myself and learn a lot of tests, and there were some really pretty geese. Yeah.
All right. Hello, I'm Tosh, and this is my box of heads. For my project, I worked with Roxy, a hairdresser in Hudson, who is a lovely woman, but I do makeup. So we had to brainstorm together a little bit. We got some makeup templates together so I could write down the looks, experiment with them a little bit. And I just kind of went for it. So meet my me head. This is the makeup I wear to school almost every day. Yes, I wake up at 6 in the morning to do this every day. The second one, I got a little more creative. This is my gyaru head. She's inspired by the Japanese style gyaru, and I added some decora elements with her cheeks. I don't know. All of them, I was like, they could be done, but I think they need a little more. One of the most difficult things was learning how to get this to absorb makeup like normal human skin, which was pretty difficult. So these are glued on with hot eye glue, and I had to draw on the eyebrows, so they're a little bit rough, but that's kind of the style, so it works. In between heads, I went to Hudson to hang out with Roxy. We went to a very fancy boutique where there were some hats that were more expensive than my whole outfit. And then we went to some thrift stores and looked at vintage magazines, and those inspired my next two heads. We also looked at some old taxidermy weasels, but I wasn't spending $50 on a taxidermy weasel with a screwed up eye. Come on. This is my third head. She's kind of 60s, 70s inspired. I wanted to do something a little brighter than actually, those have been pretty bright. Yeah, I do some darker makeup. But yeah, I just had a lot of fun experimenting with the styles. I really love drawing on the eyebrows. And I thought she would just look nice with a little double nose piercing. Last but not least, I really didn't know what I wanted to do with this head. I knew I wanted to keep the same kind of vintage look. So I did the makeup, I did all that, and I was like, all right, I'm just gonna let her be for a few days. I made her skin iridescent, and I was like, I'm gonna let her be for a few more days. And then I was in my bed, midnight, I was like, what about abstract art? And I just kind of doodled some stuff in my notes app, and then it ended up on her face, and I kind of like it. But, yeah, hair's not my strong suit. But yeah, the first thing I did actually, right when the break started, I went to San Luis Obispo, my dad's hometown, and I visited their cosmetology school, which honestly wasn't my favorite, spot in the world. I mean, there was one freshman, so. But I don't know. I still think I might pursue it because I had a lot of fun doing this. And I know even if I don't go into the cosmetology industry, makeup will always play a pretty big part of my life. Thank you.
Company. Hi, I'm Beatrice. For the first 2 weeks of April, I lived in Cold Spring, New York, and commuted to Manhattan, where I interned with Alex Miller at Taylor & Miller Architecture. The firm is located in Lower Manhattan, so each day I would commute 2 hours there and 2 hours back. Though when Alex was home, I could catch a ride in his Jeep, which was considerably faster. First slide. Oh. Next. This is a view of the Hudson River from right next to the office. In my time at the office, my main job was completing little tasks that no one else had time for. This included 3D printing. Next slide. This was for a miniature model of a retail space that they worked on. It also included building experimental physical models. Next slide. This was a model built to test different configurations for a custom light fixture. Next slide. And these are just some of the iterations that were used in that model. And I also ended up running a lot of errands around the city, which was fun. But my favorite experiences were when Alex brought me along to site meetings with him. Next slide. This is the Lever House building in New York. Next slide. This is the early stages, or kind of late stages, of an apartment building that they were working on. This is the entranceway, right into the lobby from off the street. Next slide. And this is the mailroom that they were working on, unfinished. Next slide. And this is a lobby in one of the office buildings that they were working on, where I got to watch them kind of focus the lights and finalize that. On the last Thursday of my internship, I stayed late at the office. When I got to Grand Central at 7, the conductor informed me that the trains were not running due to communications issues. I wandered aimlessly out of the station and toward Times Square, which was, in retrospect, a really bad idea. At that point, I expected that I might end up sleeping on the floor of the office. Alex was away on business, but I was able to contact his wife, Cecilia, who generously let me into their city apartment. When I arrived at the apartment at 9, I was welcomed with dinner in the most comfortable living room Murphy bed. The next morning, Cecilia informed me that I had an appointment at 3 at the Lutron Global Experience Center. Cecilia happens to be the senior director of the architectural market at Lutron, and she felt that it was important for me to understand the lighting aspect of architecture. I went through my day not knowing what to expect, but growing increasingly nervous. At 2, I left the office and frantically searched Uniqlo for a more presentable outfit. At 3, I arrived at Lutron and was sent to by the doorman to the 11th floor. Over the course of an hour, I was given nothing short of a full-blown commercial lighting pitch. Next slide. This is one of the rooms that they use to display how vastly a room can change with just a simple shift in lighting. The experience was designed to be an immersive demonstration of both practical and theoretical uses of light. I was shown the inside of a Ketra light bulb, which is capable of creating any color, any light temperature, and any brightness through exterior controls. I left feeling overwhelmed by the respect and professionalism in the center. Even beyond experiencing the lights and technicals, I felt I had learned the most from the treatment I have received from the Lutron staff. I went back to Cold Spring that night with my internship complete, but I was leaving with more than just a look into architecture as a profession. I was leaving with a new appreciation for professionalism and generosity. I'm endlessly grateful to Alex and Cecilia and the whole team at TM for making this internship possible, and to Dr. Sagren for sitting here for 2 hours and clicking through our slides. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Fernbacher, and for my senior project, I began the search for my birth mother. This is the first photo my parents received from the orphanage. I was adopted from Jiangxi, China at 11 months old in 2005. During the time, China had a population control measure in effect called the one-child policy. My mother told me that when she first met me on the ground of a hotel ballroom, the nurse picked up the loudest screaming baby and handed it to her. Next slide. When I was younger, the girls that were adopted along with me would have yearly gatherings during the Chinese New Year, along with our adoptive families in New York City, at one of the family's apartment. That is me in the lower left corner. To start my search, I went over the 23andMe DNA test I had already taken. However, the closest relatives I matched with were third and fourth cousins. My next step was taking a further look at the documents that the orphanage had provided my parents upon my adoption. Next slide. In a last attempt to allow birth mothers to claim their abandoned children, the orphanage would put out an article in the local newspaper called a finding ad. This is me, and you can see I'm marked right there. Next slide. This is my abandonment certificate, which can also be called my Chinese birth certificate. In short, it reads, Yu Guojin, female, was found outside the Social Welfare Institute of Yujiang County in Jiangxi Province at 2 days old on December 14th, 2004 by Yu Chunhua. One of the highlights of my project was when I reached out to a mother who was moderating an online adoptive parent group for my orphanage. As a result, an adoptee living in Madrid, Spain from the same orphanage contacted me through email. We have had communication over text ever since and wish to connect with other adoptees from our orphanage in the future. Though I did not reach my goal of finding my birth mother, I will continue the search in hopes that one day I will have the chance to meet her. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Wyeth Curtis, and I want to first thank everybody for coming out to learn about all of our internships and projects. For my senior project, I decided to build an arch. An arch is a perfect mix for me between my hand skills, engineering, and math. These are all subjects I'm interested in, so I was incredibly excited to build the arch. Thanks to the help of my mentor, Chris Gregory, I was able to explore my interests and start to build something I will be proud of. So there is, I think, one of the stones that I ended up using as a practice stone. So I ended up shaping that whole stone into a square. You can go next slide. So that stone was a pretty large stone, and I didn't want to hand carve the whole entire thing. So what we ended up doing was drilling holes in it and using a method called plugs and feathers to split the stone right where I wanted to have a more manageable chunk. You can go to the next slide. So there is the plugs and feathers. So that is actually, the method that will split the stone. Next slide. There is the stone once split. It was actually a lot easier than I thought. I thought it was going to take a little bit more hammering and a little bit more work, but it split really cleanly, really easily. But before I started this process of working on my practice stones, me and Chris ended up starting by going to the local bluestone quarry and finding a few good chunks of stone to start practicing with, which this stone ended up being one of those stones. Before I even started the chiseling process, I viewed stoneworking as a easier process. I mean, it was pretty easy for me to arrive at that conclusion. After spending over a year in Europe and being surrounded by stone churches, bridges, and arches, I thought, oh, this giant church was made entirely from hand-carved stone, so it can't be that hard to carve just a keystone. I was wrong. Next slide. Here are actually some more of the plugs and feathers. Next slide. This is a more almost finished version of the square that I used to practice on. Next slide. And there's actually my wrist. This was the consequence of working for a longer period of time and letting my arm get pretty tired. So I ended up missing quite a bit after my muscles got fatigued. So I basically, in the month of April and a little while after that, I spent probably over 100 hours of hitting my hand and wrist and getting stone chips in my hair and getting my muscles fatigued. So I realized that stonework is more of an art of patience, and it was a great experience overall for me. I learned how to split stones, I learned about different tools and techniques, and most importantly, I learned how to build an arch. Next slide. There's me and Chris working on the template that we were going to use to carve the keystone. Next slide. There's the setup template and then the stone next to it. Next slide. There is actually the finished keystone and me next to the finished keystone. It definitely sized down quite a bit and it's definitely great. I wasn't able to fully set up my arch, but I was able to complete a functional keystone. Next slide. There is a photo taken from my mentor Chris's website, and that's what I hoped I was going to be able to build, and I hope that I'm going to be able to continue working on it and finishing my arch. So yeah, again, thank you all for coming out here, and I wish you a good end to a wonderful evening.
Good evening. My name is Kendra Bellamy, and for my senior project, I recorded songs and made a music video. I've been interested in music my whole life and started actively pursuing songwriting when I was 12. At this time, I met Lloyd Landisman, became my mentor, and helped me record my songs. I learned how to create studio sessions, record and comp vocals, and how to make buses so I didn't have to individually put reverb on every track, which I'll have you know is quite annoying. Throughout this process, I leaned heavily on Lloyd to do the producing for me. But for my project, I wanted to see and prove to myself that I could do it on my own. So I wrote the song I will be performing for you tonight, and I recorded a music video as well. This song is about seeing the insecurities of someone as beautiful. Your insecurities are weeds to you, but flowers to me. I'd never recorded a music video in my life, but I was determined to create at least something, even if it was me standing in front of the camera, just mouthing the lyrics. I learned that iMovie is terrible to work with because when you think you've trimmed a clip, you've actually trimmed a clip 10 seconds down the video. And Creative Commons on YouTube are the best because you can use them without having a copyright lawsuit coming after you. Before I perform, I'd like to thank Lloyd Landisman for your extraordinary kindness and everlasting patience. My family for always supporting me and giving me the push I need whenever I'm stuck. And my friends who never fail to hype me up before I do something scary. Without further ado, please enjoy my performance.
cosmos of your brain. They're like weeds of glory that cry out in shame, and you douse them in poison, expecting them to die, but they grow old and conquer the story of your life.
Can you get it? Can you get it back again?
I think I knew you when you crossed on my mind. I was a gardener who couldn't see time, and my flowers wilted. They couldn't keep up, but you kept them from growing. I think I've had enough.
Can you get it back again?
I see weeds as flowers. You couldn't see why, but if you look for hours, your fears will slowly
Can you get it? Can you get it back again?
die.
The class of 2023 invites you to our graduation this Sunday, June 11th at 2 p.m. at the First Congregational Church in Stockbridge. See you there.
Thank you all so much for coming. Good night.